I am back this week with Audrey, Chapter and Converse on Instagram, as a lot of you probably know her, and YouTube. So, welcome back, Audrey.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, talking books
I
and
am so
such.
excited. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you always have a couple of books where I'm like, huh, I hadn't thought of that. So, I'm always excited to
Oh,
hear your recommendations.
oh, cool. I hope so. I am always like trying not to talk about the same things I talk about all the time, but I feel the
Yeah,
same like with you. You always have books that I'm just like, oh, like I haven't even heard of that, or that's totally on my list. And like now, like I saw the beginning of your
right.
John Fram interview, and I was like, mine is in the mail, and I'm so excited for it. You were so
Ooh,
excited. I can't
good,
wait. Yeah, so I
good.
always get good recommendations.
We feel the same way about each other. Yeah, I loved that book. So I'm really excited to hear what you think. I feel like even just like knowing what you like I feel safe saying you're going to love it. I've seen some people it didn't work for, but
Hmm.
like even like I mean like Midnight is the Darkest Hour is even kind of similar in how it's a southern
Oh,
gothic,
yep,
but then this is
interesting.
like a very different like set of scenarios. I guess is the best way to say
Yeah.
it. And
I'm
he was
like
so
anything with
cool.
an isolated setting, I'm
Hmm.
automatically like, what's this book about? I'm in. So like when I saw that part of it too, I was totally hooked.
It's really good. I really enjoyed reading that one. And it was even one that I almost included because Gare and I did mid-year favorites. And I
Yes.
almost included it, but I had so many favorites that I was like, well, this one comes out at the end of July, so it'll be in my second half of the year. But I almost included it. That was how much I loved it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm definitely excited for that. I really loved the
Yeah.
Brightlands, so
Hmm.
I feel like
Well, yeah.
his writing, the atmosphere, like all of it. I know.
Yes.
I know it's in the mail. I got the shipping notice yesterday, so it should be here by
That's
Friday.
awesome.
I know.
That's awesome. He was so cool to talk to too, and that always like makes me like the book even more or like appreciate it in a
Hmm.
different way.
Yes, I know. And I love the story behind the story. So I
I
eat that
know.
stuff up.
Yeah, me too. Obviously.
Yeah. You,
That's why we can
you
talk for
get all
so
the
long.
scoops. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if I don't get all of my cough clearing my throats out to the listeners, I'm sorry. I will try to edit all of them out. But since it's the middle of July, and for us, I'm sure it's pretty similar for you. It is hot and humid and very summery.
Hmm.
So I was
Yeah.
like, I
I
think
hate
it's
it.
time to do some favorite summer thrillers.
I know. And I was like both surprised and not surprised that I don't have a ton because like I
Hmm.
have so much fall, winter because I would much
Yeah,
rather be living in the cool season. So I'm like, wow, I don't really
yeah,
have like a ton of books set in the
yeah.
summer, but found some. Found some.
Well, and I will say, like, for mine, I think most of them are in the summer. But I was also like when I was looking at them, I was also thinking about like what you like to read in the summer. And I feel like sometimes
Hmm.
what's also associated with summer is like really bingeable, like um sometimes maybe salacious. Like I feel like I
Mm.
associate that with summer reads too. So I have two where I'm not even quite sure what the like legit season it is, but the other ones, I mean, they're summary enough. I'm just really explaining how I chose mine.
I was doing the same thing because I'm like, I always like hyper think like, am I understanding the assignment of what we're doing here? But
Right?
yeah, I definitely have like something steamy. I don't know, maybe we'll even have like the same one where I'm just like, it's in Texas and it's just like always hot there. So I don't
Yeah.
even know what season it is either. But yeah, feel the
Yes.
same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, like books that were like heat, where I felt like that
Yeah.
warmth and like got some like Louisiana Bayou coming.
Ooh,
So
nice.
I have no
Yeah,
idea what
I
month it
and
was
I
set
tried
in.
to go like really deep into my Goodreads list because I was feeling the same way where I was like, there's some of these books I was like, I've talked about them a lot recently too. Like I obviously know
Hmm.
I can talk about a book again. It's just like some of them I was like, I've talked about this one a lot. So I also was like going deep into my read list.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I can get us started with my first one.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool.
See if we
So
cross over.
this one I love. I remember loving reading it so much, but I feel like I don't even talk about it that often. And it's Charlie Donnelly's Don't Believe It. And it came out in
Oh,
2018. I think that's probably
I
why I don't
haven't read
always
it.
think about it as much.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good. So, the synopsis is The Girl of Sugar Beach is the most watched documentary in television history, a riveting true life mystery that unfolds over 12 weeks and centers on a fascinating question. Did Grace Siebold murder her boyfriend Julian while on a spring break vacation, or is she a victim of circumstance and poor police work? Grace has spent the last 10 years in a St. Lucian prison and reaches out to filmmaker Sydney Ryan in a last desperate attempt to prove her innocence. As Sydney begins researching, she uncovers startling evidence overlooked during the original investigation. Before the series even finishes filming, public outcry leads officials to reopen the case. Delving into Grace's past, Sydney peels away layer after layer of deception, but as she edges closer to the real heart of the story, Sydney must decide if finding the truth is worth risking her newfound fame, her career, and even her life.
Ooh, I feel like I've heard of this. I'm like, I'm almost low key embarrassed. I'm like, do I own this book and I haven't read it yet?
So I feel like even at the time, because I wasn't like really on Bookstagram until like 2019 probably. So I guess I don't know for sure, but I feel like I definitely don't see this one from Charlie Donnelly pop up very often. But
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. Like it was probably like one of my first ish thrillers that had like the whole like a documentary part attached
Mm-hmm.
to it. And I had just started like working in like video editing at the time, and so I remember being like, this is so cool. Like it had little kind of like editing, not Easter eggs, but just like things that if you've edited, you're like, oh, I remember
Mm-hmm.
that feeling. So that was kind of fun about it, but it's also like it's very Amanda Knox, but
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Donnelly's take on something like that. And it was so fun.
Ooh, I need to add this like to the list on the sooner side. I feel like I definitely came across it because I also love that true crime, especially the documentary piece. And then you search for like more and more that are like it, but I haven't read it yet.
Yes.
I'm sleeping
Yeah,
on a
I
lot
feel
of
like,
authors right now.
well, it's easy to do. There's so much good stuff coming out, new.
Hmm. I know. I've been reading a lot of new stuff, but I need to
Me too.
like up my backlist quite a bit. So
I
that's a good
know.
one.
You and Gary and I all feel that way right now. He was literally just telling me like I have to like September, I'm reading backlist.
Yes. I was doing like a second quarter check-in, and I think like half the books I've read this year at least are 2024 books, which I never do. I'm usually the opposite, where I'm terrible about
Yeah.
new releases.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
I
No,
bet mine's
no
more than
disrespect
50%
to
right now.
yeah, to the new releases, but
Right. I know. I know. And I've backed myself into the corner of
yeah,
like wanting to have author interviews every week. And it works
I
best with
know.
new ones. But I mean, I'm reading great books no matter what. So it's
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah, it all works out. I know. So when I was trying to do this, I was trying to find a couple backlists too, and now I'm like, they're not really that old. But the first book I came up with, which, like you, like I feel like I don't ever talk about this book, but it's called The Weekend Away by Sarah Alderson.
Ooh,
So this came out in 2021, and it's two best friends, like they've been best friends since they were younger. Kate's getting divorced. Orla like has just had a baby, and Kate is like, we need to like to go on a girls' trip. So they go to Lisbon and kind of have like this wild night. And then Orla wakes up the next morning and Kate's missing. And she's totally fuzzy on the night before, like kind of knows the restaurant they went to, kind of not sure what happened after that. So she's stuck like alone in a foreign country, doesn't speak the language, goes to the police. They're kind of like, I'm sure your friend just, is out having a good time. And she has to like find Kate and also piece together what happened the night before. So it was really good. Super
that sounds
bingy.
so fun.
Yeah. And they made a Netflix movie out of it. And
Oh, really?
I want to say Leighton Meester's in it. I haven't seen it because I haven't had Netflix in a couple of years, but I want
Yeah.
to eventually
Nice.
see it.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, super
That's
bingey.
awesome.
She wrote this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry, go
she's
ahead.
really good. No, 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 no. She wrote this book called Friends Like These a few years ago. I
Hmm.
feel like I read that. I think that came out before The Weekend Away, and it's like that toxic female friendship, but she's just sort of like a super
Ooh,
bingey, kind of twisty writer.
that is awesome. And well, that's what I was about to say was the like missing memory when it's done well, I love it.
Hmm.
Which I
Right.
know is so subjective to say, but like I do end up like it's fun having a character that's like piecing something together.
Yes. I love the replaying it and like literally like looking for the receipts, trying to figure out what's
Yeah.
going on. They're staying at like an Airbnb, so it's not like you're at a huge hotel with cameras and tons of
Mhm.
people around and makes you never
Right.
want to go on vacation.
That was my next thing that I was gonna say though. Like, legit, that's something because I read so many thrillers. It's why. But it's like legit.
Yep.
Sometimes, like, think about like if you needed to interact with the police for like anything, like,
Hmm.
but needed to do it in a foreign country, like that is so. I think that's why it's so cool in thrillers because it's so destabilizing.
Yes. And alone and just like
Oh,
having nothing, nothing with
yeah.
you. So I was trying to explain to my boss at work why like I will never road trip alone because I read No Exit by
Yeah.
Taylor Adams and he was like, "Should I add that to my list?" I'm like, "Yeah, but you'll never stop at a
Yes.
rest stop."
But
Ever.
but yeah.
Slash maybe don't. But I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
these books make me not want to do stuff.
I know. I know. Well, I mean, we're also by nature introverts. And so maybe we
Hmm.
just like experiencing it from the comfort of our home. Like we're
Yeah,
experiencing it.
yeah. Vicariously going to Lisbon and getting into
Right?
trouble.
Well, my next one kind of has some isolation going on. And it has one of my favorite covers of all time. You Can Trust Me by Wendy Hurd. It came out
Oh,
last
I
year.
haven't read that yet either. Yes, I've heard
Oh,
about it.
oh, this one is so fun.
Okay.
So it is about Summer and Leo, and they would do anything for each other. Inspired by the way each has had to carve her place in a hostile and unforgiving world, and united by the call of the open road, they travel around sunny California in Summer's tricked out Land Cruiser. It's not a glamorous life, but it gives them the freedom they crave from the painful past they've left behind. But even free spirits have bills to pay. Luckily, Summer is a skilled pickpocket, a small time thief, and a con artist, and Leo, determined to pay her own way, has learned a trick or two. Eager for a big score, Leo catches in her crosshairs Michael Forrester, a self made billionaire and philanthropist. When her charm wins him over, Leo is rewarded with an invitation to his private island off the California coastline for a night of fabulous excess. She eagerly anticipates returning with photos that can be sold to the paparazzi, jewelry that can be liquidated, and endless stories to share with Summer. Instead, Leo disappears. On her own for the first time in years, Summer decides to infiltrate Michael's island and find out what really happened. But when she arrives, no one has seen Leo. She's not on the island as far as they know. Plus, there was only one way on the island and no way off for the coming days. Trapped in the scheme that she helped initiate, could Summer have finally met her match? It has so much going
Ooh,
on.
yes, I remember the isolated island when you were saying that part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so good. Like, and there's like really some like action scenes in the third
Mm,
act. I would consider it, yeah, and they're really cinematic too. Like, I still like have the images in my mind.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't read that. I know. I remember when it came out and like everyone was talking about it.
so fun. And I always love a con thriller.
Yes.
I can't
I
help it.
know. No, they're good. I feel like when you get into
Mhm.
like I'm in a missing persons kick right now, but especially when you get into like a zone with something and just like want to
Yeah.
binge a certain kind. But yeah, I remember hearing great things
Yes.
about that. See, now you're gonna blow up my TBR. Not that I keep one, but
I know.
I'm like
We're gonna have to make room for
blow up my
backlist.
what to read next list. I'm like reaching forward for a book. Okay, so the book that I picked, so like my steamy book, is My Summer Darlings by May Cobb. I really feel like any May
Yes.
Cobb book would work for summer. And I know like Gare just talked about Hollywood Assistant, so I was like, all right, let me find something like deeper in
Yes.
hers. But this was like her Witches of Eastwick book. So like definitely in Texas, have absolutely no idea what time of year it is. Oh, actually, duh, I should have opened it. July.
I think it's
Yeah, it's in July. Maybe if I just opened up the book, I would have figured that part out. Crushing it. So
yeah.
it's three lifelong friends and a dangerous, sexy new stranger in town. So it definitely has that vibe of like long term, like friends been together for a long time. They're all sort of like dealing with different stuff. One's getting divorced. You've got a single mom, one who's married, and then like the new sexy stranger who comes into town and kind of like ruptures all of their lives and creates some havoc. And she does one of the things that I love is like, in the like the present day prologue that like somebody's in danger. And then it flips back and forth in timelines to sort of like when he
Hmm.
comes to town and then like building up to whatever this danger is. So, and it's like got some steamy scenes in it where I was like,
It
go
does.
May. Yeah,
She's
it
good
was
at
fun.
it. She just knows how
She
to
really
sneak
is.
that into a thriller.
Yes. And she writes just like such interesting women. Like, I just
Oh
love the
yeah.
complexities of them and the dynamic of their friendship. And I always love these
Yes.
books where you have like people who've known each other for a long time and like people change and evolve, but you're still treated the same way you were like 20 years ago. And just sort of how that
Yeah.
dynamic of like who you were as teenagers versus who you are as adults and how that can create
Hmm.
strain and stress. And
Yeah.
yeah, we like the sexy stranger Will coming to town in the steamy summer
Yes.
now that I know it's actually in summer.
Well, we were pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, I figured as much, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I could have just opened the book. But yeah, I feel like any of her books are definitely like a great summer read because they're also super bingeable.
They really are.
Like, just, yeah, can't go wrong. Definitely can't go wrong.
Mm-mm.
Big fan. Big fan.
I cannot wait to watch The Hunting Wives.
I know.
I'm so
There's so many
excited for
great
her.
people in it. I
Yeah.
know. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine
Hopefully
like
it'll
what
be
that
like
must
I
feel
wonder if
like.
it'll come out next summer.
I like I know anything about it. I'm like, I would think
I
so.
know.
But yeah, that feels logical if they're like wrapping up
Right?
filming now.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would think so. Maybe that's what it'll be. That's what we'll
Yeah.
hope for.
Yes.
Um well, my next one, similar to yours, has because that's another thing Makeup does really well, and that one is multiple points of view.
Hmm.
Points of views. I don't know which words to pluralize.
POVs.
I just say
Yeah.
POVs all the time. I was like,
POVs.
wait.
Exactly.
um, so this Susan Walter also does multi POV
Hmm.
so well. I love how she does it in all of her books. And she has a book called Lie by the Pool, which like just sounds
I
like
don't even
summer
know
thriller
it.
perfection.
Yeah.
Um, so Bree's new home is luxurious and private with a fancy Beverly Hills address. What a shame it's not hers. Widowed, penniless, living in her car and out of options. She's climbed the fence and crashed in the pool house. All she wants is a good night's sleep. But when Sophie, the absentee owner, finds her, she gets a whole lot more. Sophie invites Bree back for a party. When it winds down, Bree can't resist sneaking upstairs to sleep in a real bed, but the next morning she wakes to find Sophie's dead body floating in the pool. As the resident
Ooh.
vagabond, she's both the only witness and the prime murder suspect. Bree knows she shouldn't run, but her husband's death was mysterious too. If she's going to clear her name, she's going to have to work fast because the killer is still out there and she's next.
Ooh, I don't
So
know
fun.
this one.
Yeah, she her writing is so cinematic. I've talked about like Over Her Dead Body is really good too. I'm forgetting the name of the first one, but this one is just so cinematic and there are I can't remember, there's at least 3, there might be 4 Like, you know how sometimes you get another point of view later on. Um, there are so many points of view, whatever way I'm supposed to say that. And like the way that their stories intertwine at the end
Mm-hmm.
is so suspenseful because it's one of those things where like everything is coming together, and so every time you're switching chapters you're like, oh my god, but what's this person doing? So I just remember like being like, do not talk to me, I am reading the last 20% of this book.
Go away reading. I know. I love that. And I love when there's like seemingly disconnected stories and you're trying to
Yes.
like how are they ever going to bring all this together? Or how is this ever going to make sense? And then it
Hmm.
seems like the most seamless thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, she did it really well, and there's some big twists even that
Mm.
like change it. There's just, yeah, it's really fun, and it's like 276 pages, so it's
Oh
just
wow.
like super fast, super fun, super cinematic.
That's impressive for like that many POVs and action
Yeah.
too, to be that. I long to be a compact writer. I'm such an overwriter. It's
Right.
ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
could learn a thing or two reading some shorter books about how to get it done. Like
I know.
sharp.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
all
discovered that
right.
about myself too. I just wrote everything I needed to know about every character, and I was like, I don't need all this.
Yeah, I got to find my way in. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to do it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, same.
I know. But yeah, it makes for long early drafts. That's for sure. When people are like, "Oh, I
Hmm.
don't have enough words," I'm like, "Do you want some of mine? I got plenty to spare. Here's 20,000. Have
Yes.
fun with them. I don't need them." All right.
You
Okay.
can just have them.
You just take them. And they're probably not that good anyway. It's fine.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Bookwild, and if you are, could I ask you a favor? Could you go and rate and review this podcast on whatever platform you're listening? Ratings and reviews make the biggest difference in discoverability of the podcast, and I definitely want to find all of our fellow thriller readers out there. So if you could go rate the podcast and leave a short review, that would make a huge difference. Thank you, and let's get back to the show.
All right. The next book I picked, also for the hot setting, and I don't know, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I feel like it's May, which makes absolutely no sense. So it's Her Husband's Murder,
Sounds like
aka It
a
Could Have Been Anyone by Jamie Lynn Hendricks. So this is the
Mm,
UK one. When I saw these,
yes.
I was like, "Ooh, she wrote books I've never heard of before." And then I realized they just have different titles there. So it's
Yeah.
actually, it could be anyone. So it's the five friends arrive in Miami for a destination wedding, and no one would guess that each of them has a reason to want the groom dead. So this is one of those, again, like delicious, like on page one, it's the reception of the wedding, and the groom is dead. And then we go back to the beginning of the
Yeah.
weekend to find out what happened and why everybody has a motive. And I love, so multiple POVs, like you were just talking about, but
Yeah.
like a book that like anybody could be the killer. And I just love it. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody's got a motive. Like any explanation would have been wholly satisfying. Like the way that it
Yeah.
was designed, so you would have believed any outcome of this book. And this was the first of her books that I read, and I was like, oh my God, like this woman is amazing. It's so
Yes.
good. And it was
I think
so flippin'
that's my
hot.
favorite of hers.
I haven't read her newest one yet. I got it at Thriller Fest and I got to meet her, but I haven't
Yeah.
read it yet. But I've heard it's, I want to say Abby
A
from
lot
Crime
of
by the
people
Book
feel like that
compared it
one's
to In
their
My
favorite.
Dreams. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I think so much about Dark Academia with that one.
Hmm.
And so my gut is to say no, but I guess I could kind of see that. There's like backstory.
Yeah. And maybe just friends in the past and friends in the present. I don't know. I just, when she said that,
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's
Yes.
interesting. So we'll see. I need to read it this summer. But as of now, I agree. This is my favorite of hers.
Yeah.
And it was hot. I've been to Miami once. I don't need to go again.
Hmm.
And it was hot.
Yeah.
So reading this, like you feel like you're there, totally
Hmm.
different than when you were talking about with like a videography
Yeah.
component, but like to be able to capture a place so well too. and just
Mm,
transport you there. But yeah, I loved this book.
yeah. I do think it's my favorite of hers. Just
Hmm.
really satisfying, like you said, and like
Yeah.
anyone could do it, and the ending is
Hmm.
still like great.
Right. And it's like one of those books, like if you don't know on page one, like who I think of like The Hunting Party with Lucy Foley, like again, you know, like something bad's going to
Mm,
happen to somebody and like anybody could be dead and anybody could have done it. And
hmm.
I love those books where like every character is a possibility
Yeah,
in such an
it
organic
just
kind of a
makes it
way.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah. Where I'm like kill anybody. It's good. And like anybody could be the villain. It's good.
yes.
Like,
And then you're like,
bring it
wait,
on.
can anybody
I
be
know.
the villain?
I know. I feel like given the right circumstances, right? Anybody could be.
Right. I've read enough thrillers. I think anyone can be.
I know. And like what's the
Yeah,
villain's the hero of their story. So yeah, anything's
right.
possible.
Yeah. Well, my next one, I don't have a segue because it's just a little
Okay.
different. But this is another one that came out in 2018. Clearly, like when I got to
Hmm.
my 2018 year, I was like, oh, these work. So this one is called The Au Pair by Emma Rue, I think.
Ooh.
Rous.
Also haven't read
Um,
this, but I've heard of it. Yep.
the cover is so cool. Like I feel like the cover is really
Yes.
memorable.
Hmm.
So the synopsis is Seraphine Mays and her twin brother Danny were born in the middle of summer at their family's estate on the Norfolk coast. Within hours of their birth, their mother threw herself from the cliffs, the au pair fled, and the village thrilled with whispers of dark cloaks, changelings, and the aloof I can't speak. And the aloof couple who drew a young nanny into their inner circle. Now an adult, Seraphine mourns the recent death of her father. While going through his belongings, she uncovers a family photograph that raises dangerous questions. It was taken on the day the twins were born, and in the photo, their mother, surrounded by her husband and her young son, is beautifully dressed, smiling serenely, and holding just one baby. Who is the child and what really happened that day? One person knows the truth, if only Seraphine can find her. So, dual timeline
Hmm.
stuff going on, and just like kind of like secretive rich people in an isolated location secrets.
Yeah, I remember. It's like you're crushing me with these books where I'm like, I've heard of this and I haven't read it yet, which is kind of the best part too, because it's like something
Yeah.
new. But yeah, I
Yeah.
remember when that book came out, and again, yeah, I can see the cover too.
Yeah. It's so cool. I love the cover. I read it like so long ago, but I still do like there are parts of it that I like really remember, and I gave it 5 stars. So
Nice.
I loved it.
That's a good endorsement, the 5 star.
Yeah.
I'm stingy with the 5 star, so.
I am the opposite lately, and I've just accepted it
Mm,
about myself.
yeah. I'm like, not that I'm like loose with a 4 star, but I feel like that's my sweet spot. Like I loved it. The five
Yes.
star is like kind of life altering in some way.
Yeah. That's what I was just debating, if they all have to be life altering. Or I was actually having this conversation with Steph
Yeah.
about like, so for an action thriller, this to me was a 5 for an
Hmm.
action thriller. And I'm not even saying it in like a negative qualifier. It's just like, I used to be like, only if it like changed my life or something, like that kind of feeling, like exactly what you were
Yep.
saying. And then lately it's
Hmm.
been like, but like if I just super enjoyed it and it was a 5 for that
Yeah.
genre,
Because I'm
that's kind
saying
of like
this and
what
I'm
I'm
like,
giving
or it
them
could have
more
just been a really
often.
good time.
Yeah. Yeah. Ratings are hard to pick sometimes.
They are. And like I'll have subscribers ask, like, oh, you only gave it 4 stars. Like, what didn't you like about it? Or like you said you loved it. Why was it 4 stars? I'm like, I loved it. Like to me, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Like if I don't, I mean, if I don't like it, I'm not talking
Right.
about it. But
Same.
yeah, I don't have like qualifiers, like how some people have like statistics and like
Oh
rating
yeah.
scales and stuff like that. Like I'm just sort of like, I
Hmm.
loved it. That's like my
Yes.
scale. Amazing.
Same.
You must read
Hmm.
this.
Yeah,
I don't like the stars. I don't.
I know. That's like because I don't even really post them on Instagram, just on
No,
Goodreads.
no. Yeah, I don't do it on Instagram. And I had posted, I don't even know what book it was, but I wrote like
Hmm.
the title of the book. I was doing a book review. So like if I did
Hmm.
like The Kind Worth Killing and then put the star like emoji next to it and then was writing about it and somebody
Hmm.
was like, you only gave it one star, blah blah blah. And I was like, no, my star is like grabbing your
I
attention.
loved
So
it.
like so I was like, can't put a star next to anything is like an excitement thing, or it had something. Maybe
Oh my
it
god.
might have even been Flicker in the Dark because of the stars. Like it had something to do with the book. And I
Yes.
was like, oh, now everybody thinks I gave this book one star. I have to go edit my review now.
Oh my gosh.
Can't
Internet.
win. I know, internet's gonna internet. But the next one I picked is A Flicker in the Dark. Now I'm gonna keep laughing. By Stacey
It's such
Willingham. Such a good book. And this was like the Louisiana, like Bayou Heat, like kind of like all or Baton Rouge. Um,
hmm.
Such good atmosphere. So this book
Yes.
to me, so like when I talk about like life altering, I binged this, was so blown away by it, totally
Hmm.
fell for all the things you were supposed to fall for. So
Yep.
this is when Chloe Davis was 12, six teenage girls went missing in her small Louisiana town. By the end of the summer, her own father had confessed to the crimes and was put away for life, leaving Chloe and the rest of her family to grapple with the truth and try to move on while dealing with the aftermath. So we pick it up 20 years later. She's a psychologist. She's like getting ready to get married. She's planning her wedding. And all of a sudden, girls start to disappear again in a very like
Hmm.
reminiscent way of what happened when her father went to jail. So she's starting to wonder, is there a copycat? She's being haunted by her past, having to deal with all the stuff with her dad. And it was so good. Like, I can't believe this is a debut. Just so good.
That's how I felt.
Hmm. What a talent. Loved it.
Yeah, I did too.
And
I
it,
think it's
and
it is my favorite of hers.
it same, same.
So good.
Hmm.
Her
And just
imagery,
like
like you were
pop.
saying, like it's
Hmm.
atmospheric. Like her imagery is really
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. And like I've never been there, but like I feel like it's one of those books where like you can feel it and you can smell it, like all of it. But yeah, super well done. So dual timelines, lots of great characters, and I'm just so impressed. But like it was just so good. Like I need to read this book again because I haven't read it since I originally read
Yeah.
it and just loved it. But yeah,
Hmm.
I always recommend this one. And it's like definitely on the obviously on the dark side, but it's a good one.
Yes.
I feel like all of these are
Yeah.
kind of dark.
Mine have been
Makeup's
pretty
probably the
dark.
least dark. Yeah.
Yes. Hers
The scale.
has extra stuff.
Yeah. She makes up for it in the spice.
Yeah. Well, my last one is really psychologically dark, is what I remember about like
Mm.
how much I could not put this one down. And it is An Anonymous Girl by Greer
Mm.
Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen.
Yep.
So the synopsis is looking to earn some easy cash. Jessica Ferris agrees to be a test subject in a psychological study about ethics and morality. But as the study moves from the exam room to the real world, the line between what is real and what is one of Dr. Shields' experiments blurs. Dr. Shields seems to know what Jess is thinking and what she's hiding. Jessica's behavior will not only be monitored but manipulated. Caught in a web of attraction, deceit, and jealousy, Jess quickly learns that some obsessions can be deadly. And it was just like so intense
Mm-hmm.
psychologically, literally, because she's like, am I being psychologically manipulated? And then, like, why if I am?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was a good one. I read that. I feel like I read that when it came out. They
I
write
think
some good
so.
books.
Yeah, 2019.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah. I know. You need the like the psychological darkness too. It doesn't always have to be
Hmm.
serial killers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in for that. I'm
Hmm.
like, mess me up, mess with me.
Right?
I was talking about it in a video and I was like, not that I'm like actively looking to have a nightmare, but like if you give
Right.
me one or like maybe kind of make me too scared to go to bed at night, I feel like your work is done. Like, well
Right.
played.
I mean, I'm impressed.
Yeah. Because there's definitely some books where you get like the serial killer point of view and stuff that like
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
get to you. Yeah. But I
Yes.
keep reading them.
Same.
Can't stop. So this one also
No.
isn't like scary, scary. And I don't even, again, I'm like, I don't even think it takes place in the summer, but it's a road trip, which makes me think of like family summertime road trip kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's He Started It by Samantha Downing with
That's what I
like
figured when you said road trip. I was like, is it?
worst family road trip ever, which of course makes it
Yeah.
amazing. So I haven't read this in forever, so I'm going to read the blurb. So it says Beth, Portia, and Eddie are siblings. Like all siblings, sometimes they don't get along. They just have better reasons. Like all siblings, sometimes they don't get along. They just have better reasons than most. So when their grandfather dies, he leaves a troubling specific condition in his will. For them to inherit his wealth, they're required to retake a road trip they took with him when they were children and scatter his ashes at the end. Of course, reuniting after all this time brings back memories of that ill fated trip and memories of what went wrong. But that's not all they have to worry about. Someone is following them. Each of them is keeping secrets, and all of them are all too aware of what happened last time because you can't inherit the money if someone kills you first. Mm-mm-mm. I love
I
her.
loved that one.
This was
Yeah, and I love
so
her.
good. I did not
The ending
like
is
see any of
like,
this book
again,
coming.
yeah. I keep saying cinematic, but maybe that makes a book
Mm-hmm.
feel summery. But the ending is so cinematic. Like it's still like
Mm-hmm.
burned in my head.
Yep.
It's
And it's
good.
it's just
And you just feel
yeah.
claustrophobic the whole time.
Yes. Stuck in that car and all the different points of view and like some multiple timelines. Gosh, it was so good and it was so bingey. So like to your
Yeah.
point of like summer
Yes.
reads being just like quick bingey books. I
Hmm.
felt the same way about um why am I blanking on the name of her first book?
My Lovely
My
Wife.
Lovely Wife.
Was
I
that?
was like the perfect wife, my
Oh,
lovely wife. Also like super bingey.
obsessed
But
with that one.
yeah, I remember like walking into the bookstore, buying it, coming home and reading it. Like have such a weird, vivid memory of
Yeah.
like on the front table, buying it and coming home and reading it. But
Yeah.
yeah, she's fantastic.
It's so good. I know. I'm excited for whatever she does next.
I know. I still have For Your Own Good, which I haven't read yet, the Dark Academia one.
Yes. Yes.
I haven't read that one yet. Not always, but like there's a few authors where I'm like saving a book of theirs for like
Yeah.
when I like am in a slump or I don't know what to read and I'm like, oh, I've
Feel
got
like
one of
you
these
need it.
saved from this author. Yeah, so I haven't read that one yet.
Hmm. Yeah. That
It's a
one was
game.
pretty good. I know. Trying to make sure you can always have something dependable to read if you need it.
Mm-hmm. Because sometimes you just or I get in those modes as such a mood reader where like you
Yes.
don't know what to read. And sometimes like I don't want to
Hmm.
reread, but you kind of want to be in familiar hands. So
Yeah. Yep.
that's my strategy.
I feel you.
Haven't read it yet, but I will.
Yeah. I know. My TBR. It's like that meme that's like, you're never going to finish your TBR. And I'm like,
I
don't tell me that.
know. I wish I could be one of those people who reads faster. Like you see these people who read like
Yeah.
multiple books a week, or I don't know. I'm not, especially now, I feel like my reading has slowed down a ton. I'm trying to work on writing, but
Hmm.
I'm reading The God in the Woods by Liz Moore,
Yep.
which
Oh,
I like
yeah.
debated
Are
talking
you
about it,
liking
but
it?
it's like because it's summer camp, I love it. I don't know if I'm like
Yeah.
110 pages in or
Nice.
something, which it's like a 400 something page book. So like every time I close it, I'm like, I've read this much.
Hmm.
But
Right.
So it's like not quite thriller, but summer camp. But I am all in. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am totally into this book,
Nice.
but like slowly taking my time. Like I don't want to binge it. You know, like some books you just want
Mm,
to like spend time in it, and that's what I'm doing. So
yeah,
it's probably going to take me like 2 weeks to read it, but it's okay. Like,
that's okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I typically like the summer camp thing. So I've
Hmm.
debated sneaking it into my list. I have a couple I need to
Yeah.
read for August.
Yeah, I thought about Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager for this, but I
Me
always
too.
talk about him.
Or well,
But that's a really good summer
The
camp
God of the
book.
Woods made me think of
Hmm.
the last time I lied. It was like maybe
Yep.
it'll be, but I think that's my favorite of his. Yeah, it would be. So I was like, maybe
I'm still
it's
Final Girls.
similar. Yeah.
I feel like it's like similar but different, but I had the same
Mhm.
like echo when I heard about the God in the Woods. God in the Woods or God of the
Yeah.
Woods? Of the Woods.
I can't remember. Of.
Yeah,
The
of.
cover's so cool. I love that like paint drip.
I took it off. Yeah, and I want to know what the paint trip is. What does it
Yeah,
mean?
me too.
Like, does the
Like it has
cover,
to mean
yeah,
something.
does it, right? Because I feel like even the UK cover has like a drip down the front of it, because of course I
Oh,
looked.
really?
Yeah,
Interesting. Oh my
so it's got to
gosh.
be
Now I
something.
really want to read it. I need to know where the pink paint came from.
Exactly. I'll keep you posted on the book, but so far I'm in. I feel like it's a little out of my wheelhouse, but
Mhm.
the writing
Because
is
it's
so
kind of
good. And I've,
literary. Is that what I've heard?
yeah, and it's like the core story is 1975, but then it goes past, like past tense of that. So they're like in the 50s and the 60s, like building up the
Oh,
backstory of
wow.
the family. So I
Mm,
usually don't read anything historical. I
same.
shudder to call like the 70s historical, but still,
The
I know people do. I know
50s.
it was a long time ago,
Yeah.
but the writing is so good. Like it feels
Yeah.
contemporary. Like it doesn't feel like I'm
That's
reading a
cool.
book from a long time ago, where
Mhm.
sometimes like that's not my go-to, but it feels like a very
Yeah.
contemporary book.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So far, you've sold me. I'll have to
I'm in.
add it in.
Yeah.
Did you read
So
All the Colors of the Dark?
I just bought it today.
Nice.
So
That's like
everybody
the
was
other
talking
long
about
one
it.
that everyone's talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was like, I heard about that first. I was like, it's like massively long. It's not really in my
Yeah.
wheelhouse. Like, I'll wait, I'll wait. And then last night,
Uh-huh.
no joke, Jordy from Jordy's Book Club posted the UK
Mm,
cover of it and was like, UK
mm,
covers are better. And I literally was like, oh my God, you're like making me want to go shopping. And then I
yes.
went online and it was like sold out. So I put my name on the list for like the wait list. And this morning I got an email. It's like back in stock and I bought it. So,
Nice.
so check
Yeah,
back with me in a
maybe
couple weeks.
right. I think I saw did you share it in your story or like his post? The
No.
UK cover? Okay, so someone else. Basically I saw the UK cover this week too and I was like, "Wow, that's
Hmm.
beautiful."
Yeah. I'm so influenced. It's not even funny.
Yeah,
Like it's
I
pathetic
know.
how heavily influenced I am.
I know, because I'm
Marketer's
even
dream.
like, how can I fit in 600 more pages?
I know. And I was like, is it really? Yeah, it's you. And even like out of the woods, I'm like, this feels real big.
I
So
know.
it's keeping me
400
busy.
like
But
is where it starts to you're like, "Oh, this is longer than usual."
yeah, this is, I don't
Which
read
I've loved
fantasy or
any of.
anything.
Mm.
Yeah, this is 478 pages.
Oh wow, it's
It's
almost 500.
it's basically 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read a big book like that in a while.
I think I read Fatal Intrusion by Isabella
Hmm.
Maldonado and Jeffrey Deaver. It comes out
Oh.
in September, but they needed to
Mm-hmm.
like interview in July.
Mm-hmm.
Um and it flew by. It's like a serial killer cop action thriller. Like it does all of those really well together. and it was like 437 pages, and I read it in like a day and a half. Like it was a weekend,
Wow. Yeah,
but I was like just glued to the action. It was so good.
that's great. And I feel like this book doesn't feel long to me in the sense that
Yeah.
like there's so much happening, but also
Hmm.
it's just moving along. So it doesn't feel
Yeah.
big, but it feels big in my
Hmm.
hand when I'm holding it. Like
Right.
such
I
weightier
know.
than the last
Go
book I
ahead,
read.
Kindles unite.
Yeah. It's a lot heavier than the Dervla McTiernan book I just read. So
Right.
there's that.
Yeah.
But I feel like the new Lisa Jewell book is bigger too, right? Like you just read the Jessica Jones book.
Yes. It's 400, like right at 400, I think, or
Yeah,
maybe 398.
it looks big,
Yeah, it's
like
longer.
sitting on my end table. Yeah.
That cover's so pretty though.
Hmm. I know.
I
Maybe
love
I'm
it.
in my big book season. Maybe it's like
You are. You're having a big book summer.
that's what it is. I'm having big book summer.
So we can name the episode. People are gonna be like, "What?"